Hi, welcome back. In this video, we will see how to install Docker on Pop! OS 21.04, which is the latest release of Ubuntu, means Debian based operating systems. And also we will see how to install Docker on CentOS 8. I have created a document with the necessary commands and uploaded it to Git. You can follow this documentation and install Docker on any of the operating systems, means Debian based or CentOS. As of 21.4, the apt key has been deprecated, so I have modified the commands where we can download the GPG key and export it to the necessary folders. So we'll copy each command one by one and paste it on the terminal. So the initial installation will be on Pop! OS 21.04. And once the key is downloaded, we'll add the repository for Docker. I'll update the repositories completely once again. Now we can go and install any particular version of Docker, or we can get the latest version. Docker has been installed, and if you try to execute any Docker command, we will get some permission issues. Here we can see permission denied. There are two ways by which we can fix this error. We can use sudo command. Any Docker command should be run with root access. We can see here Docker is installed and all the commands are working fine, but to execute any Docker command we need to use sudo. If you don't want to use sudo, then we have to add the user to Docker group. Here Docker will be the group name and user will be the current user, which is accessing this terminal. And to reflect these changes, we need to restart the machine once. And before doing that, we will see if the Docker service is enabled by default or not. If you don't want Docker service to start every time you start the mission, then we can make it disabled. Or if you want Docker to be running always, then you can keep it as enabled. Right now the service is active status. Press Q button, and now I will reboot this mission. Now we can see we don't need to use sudo to access the Docker commands. I'll try to pull an image. So the commands are executing perfectly without any issues. Now let's see how to install the same on CentOS 8. Now these are the commands to install Docker on CentOS. Next step is to add the Docker repository. And then update the repository once again. And the next step is to install the latest version of Docker. Now let's see if Docker is installed properly or not using the command. In Ubuntu, the Docker service will start by default, but in CentOS it will be not. So we have to start the service. So let's see the status of the service first. So we can see the status, it's not running. So let's start the service. And now we can see it's running, but by default it will be disabled. So if you want Docker to run every time you restart or start the mission, we can make it enabled. Or if you want to start manually, we can follow these two steps. Docker start and check the Docker status. And by this command, I will create a link where it will enable Docker every time you start the mission. And now if you see the status, it will be in enabled. And even now, if you give Docker PS, we will get an error, permission denied. Docker will be the group and user will be the current user, which is running this terminal. Let's reboot the machine. Now I can run all the Docker commands without using sudo and also download an image. So these are the commands we need to install Docker on Ubuntu and CentOS. My recommendation is, if you are using a virtual machine, then keep the Docker service enabled by default and give the current user access to the Docker group. If you are installing it on your personal machine, then keep Docker service disabled by default, and whenever you want, you can enable it or start the service. At the same time, don't add user to the Docker group. Every time you use command, use sudo. I hope you like this video. Please share with your friends and see you in the next one. Thank you.